I really enjoyed the Suns' two-way process coming out in the second half of their win against the Miami Heat. In that quarter, they were plus 13, and on the offensive side, they were 15 of 22 from the field, including 6 of 11 from three, and they held Miami to 6 of 19. And they really just did a solid job of dictating with their identity and kind of stamping how they wanted to play the game over that 12-minute period, and they really saw the benefits of it because Miami was never really able to overcome that the rest of the way. And like I mentioned, the Suns were plus 13 in that stretch, and I really just think they have taken steps in finding those pockets to stamp their identity on games. And when they do that, especially from the onset of a quarter or a half or just even to start a game, I think those things kind of align with when they're able to get wins and sustain and keep things in favorable fashion for themselves. So let's just kind of dive into what caught my attention from that third quarter period in their win over the Miami Heat. I mentioned they were plus 13, and we're going to start on the offensive side of the floor here. So we see Devin Booker flowing off of double screens, Nurkic being the first screener, Kevin Durant being the second. Miami does a solid job with their pressure and extending that pressure and just making things a little bit tougher for the Suns to navigate through process-wise on offense. These are extremely good reps because it also highlights how other teams are going to try to guard the Suns and how they have counters and pressure counters specifically to alleviate pressure and never have to fight pressure and going against the grain. Being able to get into whatever action it is they're trying to get into more efficiently and effectively. So looking at the defensive side, the Miami Heat, you got pressure on the ball, and we're going to mention a matchup switch that happened as Haywood Highsmith started the game guarding Devin Booker. Coming out in the second half, the Miami Heat decided to put Jimmy Butler on Devin Booker instead of having him guard Kevin Durant like he did to start the game. So Highsmith and Jimmy Butler switched in terms of their matchups. And obviously that's to try to put out the fire that was Devin Booker being the hottest scorer on the planet the last week and some change now. Nonetheless, we see the pressure Miami's putting on the ball. We're going to also look at the pressure that they're putting on Kevin Durant. As we see Durant trying to walk into mid-post positioning, we see Highsmith elect to jump topside. And if you've been following me for any amount of time, you probably have heard me say or tweet that you can't top lock or play with heavy denial without having help underneath, because you're conceding backdoor opportunities galore for a team that understands how to navigate against that type of defensive pressure. And the Suns, being the team that knows how to do that, put the Heat in a compromising situation. That's because Highsmith is playing topside on Durant here. That's going to put Bam Adebayo to play bottom side to essentially sandwich and take away the leverage and opportunity for Kevin Durant on this catch. Should the pass be able to get there through the pressure on the ball and also the pressure on the top side and bottom side coming from Highsmith and Adebayo, it's going to be a catch that's met on the catch from Bam Adebayo. Potentially see a double team, potentially see that catch contested, and this is going to be hard to process through for the Suns if this ball ends up going to Kevin Durant. So how they're alleviating pressure, they never fight pressure, I say that a lot as well, is Jusuf Nurkic being a connector, being the ultimate pressure alleviator for this team. And he's able to connect and just taking that space that's being conceded from Bam Adebayo to help give attention to Kevin Durant on the mid-post. He gets the ball, and now Bam Adebayo has to step up to at least the free throw line. Nurkic is able to then connect it to the advantage that the Suns are trying to get into. And then as I pause it here, you see the shift and all the help that comes to Kevin Durant. They get the low man from Tyler Hero coming across the help line to load the strong block, in addition to gap help from Bam Adebayo from the middle third of the floor on the help line. And then it's going to be smart, astute cuts here from Jusuf Nurkic, as well as a pump fake from Kevin Durant. And then we're also going to see Eric Gordon be great with his backdoor cut here, just to flatten out the rotations and give Durant some airspace to work with. He's going to be able to get into one of his many patented pull-up jumpers, one that he works on consistently. Just the way the Suns are processing through, not fighting pressure, but always having outlets to alleviate it and to counter it effectively and efficiently is important to see, and they continue to go forth with that process on that rep there. Next rep here, we're going to go to the defensive side of the floor, and this is where they really started to stamp some more identity. And it started with Devin Booker setting the tone. We see the Miami Heat get into tons of pistol action to start their offense. We see a little bit of that there here with Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier. Rozier is going to ghost this pistol screen, and we're going to see Devin Booker and Eric Gordon switch. But they're not just switching and handing the baton off from one another. We see Devin Booker with an aggressive switch, eating up the airspace, putting pressure to the ball, ultimately muddying up some of the flow that Tyler Hero is trying to get into with this get action. He's able to steal the pace that Tyler Hero is typically able to generate with this action, flowing off of the handoff and chasing the pass that he just threw to Bam Adebayo. And then in addition to that, we're going to see Devin Booker locking and trailing here. And look at the activity and the attention to detail and his intent with how he's navigating. There's a good 2.5, 3, maybe even 4 feet between Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero here. As Devin Booker jumps to the hip to kind of trail Tyler Hero and going over the screen, look at his hand already in the handoff lane here. Just being disruptive with his activity and navigating of this handoff action. Ultimately, he's going to end up getting a steal, putting his right arm, of all things, his right arm, in the passing lane, in the handoff lane, just to muddy up the flow. And this is the type of sacrifice, the little things that help to set a tone, and everybody else kind of pings and plays off of that the rest of the way. But he doesn't even need the help of everyone else here, as Devin Booker is going to be able to get his hand in there, get the steal, end up finding the ball on the ground, being first to the ball and to the floor after navigating and playing with the activity that we just detailed. He's going to be able to get this hit-ahead pass to Yusuf Nurkic, and that's a layup. +1. Really good stuff from Devin Booker. That's the type of stuff that the big three have to continue to stamp on the game in any given quarter or half or stretch of the game where the Suns are trying to pull away and really trying to stamp things. Really good to see that there from Devin Booker. Here, back to the defensive side of the floor again. We see Miami kind of flowing into some flex action. We're going to see Yusuf Nurkic duck under the flex screen from Tyler Hero. And what Miami's ultimately doing from here is trying to enable a pull-up pocket for Terry Rozier, to come off of. We're going to see Bam, instead of coming off of this screen to get to the opposite block, which is what typical flex action is, we're going to end up seeing Bam, seeing that Yusuf Nurkic is ducking all the way under the screen, ultimately using the flex screen as a ram screen to get into the pick on the ball, and pinning Yusuf Nurkic way behind schedule in terms of where he wants to be with his drop coverage. Now, Terry Rozier is processing all of that. He's going to be coming off of this screen, seeing the pull-up pocket around the nail, around the free throw line area of the floor, noticing that space is all completely unoccupied. He's going to come off of this screen, assuming that there's going to be an opportunity to get up a pull-up in the mid-range here for a player that's a fairly decent pull-up shooter and scorer in general. But watch how the Suns process through this, and look at the time on task and attention to detail from Bradley Beal. Gives a peek to the ball as Tyler Hero is respacing around that empty side pick and roll from Bam Adebayo and Terry Rozier. And look at how Bradley Beal takes away that action, that organic 2 versus 2 that they created off of spacing, and how Bradley Beal is going to step in, muddy up the pace and flow, take away what was a shot attempt that was coming from Rozier, and then allow for the Suns to play out of that. But that's just the first layer. We're going to also pay attention to the next layer, and the next layer being something that's been somewhat missing from the Suns within their rotations. And that's Eric Gordon here helping the helper. So obviously Bradley Beal being the first player helping on Devin Booker as he navigates the screen, making that 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 2, getting the ball off of his hands. And then we're going to see Eric Gordon being up the line in his help, getting a quick jab at. Now, this isn't the best pass from Terry Rozier. And if it was in the pocket, Tyler Hero might have thought about making this a shot opportunity for him on the catch. So the pass is off, so that throws things off a little bit, but the process is still on point for the Suns. Eric Gordon being peeled in early with his help in his next rotation, being able to get this jab bat on Tyler Hero just to give him something to think about and covering up for Bradley Beal as he goes from cutting off the nail to recovering in his rotations. This is all just on time and on task from the Suns. It gets back to that first side again, so now it's getting to the third side of the floor, or fourth side of the floor for the Miami Heat. And the Suns are very solid with their process in the late shot clock. And this is a portion of defense where the Suns have had high variance, but they're very much in time on task as a unit here. So it swings back to that fourth side, and we see Devin Booker immediately in ice coverage or weak coverage, keeping this to the outer third of the floor late in the clock, keeping Terry Rozier to his left hand, and canceling that screen that Bam Adebayo is trying to set for Rozier to get to the middle third of the floor. In addition to that, we see Yusuf Nurkic in perfect positioning in his drop coverage to help keep things to the outer third of the floor. He's not too deep in drops to concede that pocket pass to Bam Adebayo, but he's also not over helping on the ball and allowing for Devin Booker to do his job, steering the wheel at the point of attack. They get a contested shot to a player's weak hand late in the clock, and that's a win for the Suns defensively. And then here we're getting into them going from sideline out of bounds, and we're looking at them just flowing on offense. And we're seeing Devin Booker coming off and engaging the nail, and we're going to see them just doing a very solid job with their process from there. Bradley Beal getting it on the catch, He's going to ward off that extra rotation from Tyler Hero, ultimately taking that catch from Devin Booker and getting in the drive, flattens out the defense a little bit. You see the help kind of collapse on him. He's able to kick it out to Kevin Durant, and because of that drive, the first drive, and him puncturing the defense, flattening them out, get just enough of a rotation and reaction out of the defense. On the kick to Kevin Durant, he's going to be able the opportunity to attack a closeout, even though it is Jimmy Butler. He's going to be able to gain leverage, and that's, again, another drive. That's just as good of a paint touch as he's attracted the attention of multiple defenders, making the Miami Heat rotate on defense and scramble. And you see the frenetic pace that I'm speaking at, because that's the frenetic pace that the Miami Heat are having to scramble at because of how the Suns are processing on offense here. So you see that redrive from Kevin Durant on the kick after Bradley Beal's drive, returning it to the sender. He's going to get back to Devin Booker. He's going to kick it back to Bradley Beal. And again, just seeing all the rotations that the Heat are having to make. This is all being done with 14 seconds on the shot clock from the Suns inbounding this from the sideline. Bradley Beal's going to be able to attack the closeout, get a quick jab, one step to the left, and that's a three. That's green shot quality for the Suns. And that's just great process for them, trusting the pass, trusting the play, and allowing for themselves to play with pace and with movement of the ball. That's the important piece of it all for this team. And then we see them get into a little bit more of that here in terms of movement, this time off the ball. And we're going to see, we've talked about small screens. We talked about Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Eric Gordon, and Grayson Allen screening for each other, as well as Kevin Durant. This time we're going to see Kevin Durant chipping in, and I think this is where, in terms of their process, there's a lot of meat left on the bone. And that's just how much stuff you can get into action-wise to get a reaction out of a defense and generate advantages by having Kevin Durant, first of all, in movement, but in addition to being in movement, being used as a screener. We see him ghost his screen on the ball here for Bradley Beal, and we see that automatically detach Jimmy Butler from his duties on Kevin Durant. And now there's going to be Jaime Jaquez, who is not a bad defender in any capacity. He just lacks the physical advantages and the stature that Jimmy Butler has, especially in a matchup with Durant. Durant immediately flows to the post, and I love this from Eric Gordon as he re-spaces around the advantage that he's processed in seeing that Durant now has Jaime Jaquez on him in the mid-post. And sometimes Eric Gordon can be a culprit, one of the main culprits of the Suns, of the vaunted catch and hold scenarios that steal the pace away from what they're trying to create on offense. Eric Gordon does an excellent job here, not even barely touching the ball. It's a quick touch pass to Kevin Durant. He's able to get that catch quick, and because of how quickly they flow into problem solving, how to get the ball to the advantage that they're creating, Durant's going to be enabled with one of his patented, this time, zero dribble pull-ups, and he's able to get this shot off before the Heat defense can even react to try to help insulate and help Jaime Jaquez with that post mismatch there. That's just great process from the Suns. Again, doing it in a quick hitting fashion, eliminating the catch and holds that steal the pace and allow for a defense to recover, and executing within that advantage that they created. And here we're going to see a little bit more of the same. We hear about Devin Booker's not a point guard this, the Suns need a point guard that. Look at Devin Booker on this possession as I let it just flow through by itself, dictate, and just really traffic control. And he's putting people in position, ultimately generating the shot. Even though he's not going to get even close to an assist for this, he's doing everything in terms of pulling the strings and being a floor general, taking what the defense is giving him in terms of the extended 2-3 that the Miami Heat are playing on him. And he's just able to make it happen, pulling all the strings, putting people in positions, ultimately netting the Suns a highly green shot quality and opportunity for Eric Gordon, and he's able to knock down this three on the backside. That's an important part of the Suns' process. And Devin Booker just really not even trying to show people that he can play point guard, but just continuing to do the things that this team needs for him from that floor general position when he is initiating offense. And here we're going to see with Kevin Durant getting into this empty angle pick and roll with Drew Eubanks. We're going to see Eubanks, who's been fairly solid in this last maybe 4 games or so, just doing the little things for this team. And he has the ability to make these plays off of the short roll, not necessarily like or on the volume or the processing speed that Yusuf Nurkic has, but he's able to execute within these advantages. And the context around him, with the Suns having so many players that space the floor but also can garner two to the ball, puts him in positions to where his rolls and his ability to short roll should be optimized. And we're seeing a little bit of that come here. And we see him with this astute fake pass to burn the rotations, in addition to Josh Okogie with this very smart burn cut on the baseline, just to flatten out the rotations of the Heat just enough, gets enough of a reaction out of Terry Rozier to create space for Eric Gordon on the backside. And that's another three for Eric Gordon. Great processing from the Suns. and great tempo in it as well. And then here we're going to look at the defensive side of the floor for these last couple of reps. It's all Josh Okogie. Look at him here. Little free throw line extended at the top of the screen with Jimmy Butler. Early in the offense, he's already got contact on Jimmy, and he's setting the tone early in the possession. And then we're going to see him do a great job in denial, forcing the Miami Heat to bleed away the shot clock. Ultimately, they get a catch with 13 seconds left, with Jimmy Butler having a foot on the three-point line. They would love for this catch point for Jimmy to be a lot closer to the block, or closer to the paint, or generally closer to the basket. Because of the activity and the pressure that Josh Okogie is putting on the ball, this catch is way further away from the basket than Jimmy would like. He can't necessarily get into his post-up the way that he wants to in effectiveness from this distance from the basket, but we're also going to see great help here from Keita Diop as we see him loading that strong block and taking away the potential look and showing support early. And the presentation here is everything from the Suns as they close the airspace around Jimmy Butler on this isolation touch. As we see also Drew Eubanks helping at the nail. Josh Okogie does an excellent job here cutting off the initial drive and initial look, forcing Jimmy Butler to turn and go back towards the sideline, keeping him away from the paint. And then again, from the initial rotation here, with Keita Diop loading on that strong block, even though his man is respacing, we see Keita Diop do a great job getting right back into it. And we see the presentation again, in addition to Bradley Beal being on time and schedule with his rotation as the low man here, as the sink man here, helping with Keita Diop, and they do a great job, end up getting a stop, and the Suns are on the break. And then we're going to see a little bit more of the same here with Josh Okogie. So we see them getting into some screener action from baseline out of bounds, and we see the switch and how effectively Okogie is taking away and muddying the flow of everything that the Heat are trying to get into with Hawkins, forcing that catch point after forcing him to navigate through hand help all the way through the screen. Forcing that catch all the way to the three-point line, playing with activity. We see another solid job with Drew Eubanks helping to get a dig in on the ball. And then it's all Josh Okogie the rest of the way, just smothering Jaime Jaquez. You can't tell me that Okogie doesn't provide a unique and much-needed value to this team. He might not be the best shooter, but there's so much more to the game than just shooting, especially on a team that should have zero struggles on offense. Being able to insulate him the way that they can and being able to get the benefits that they will from him on the defensive side of the floor is the space they need to operate in. And we're speaking to Okogie and his extra efforts. Just track him again here on this play. And these are just the little things. This is not necessarily a big thing to break down, but just looking at Josh Okogie stamping extra efforts and helping to bring and insulate the tone that was already set from Devin Booker like we showed in the onset from the Suns on defense. These little things they just have to continue to nail within their process, from the movement on offense of players and as well with the ball, keeping the catch and hold scenarios to a minimum and just consistently compromising with the defense with the many different layers and things that they can get into on offense, in addition to them executing on the defensive side of the floor.